I've been gone for the last 5 days, and what's cool is the Jimmy Ward interview I did has legs. And that one part in particular where he talked about Matthew Stafford just keeps going. And everyone's talked about it nationally, ESPN, NFL Network, Sports Illustrated, Bleacher Report, not to toot my own horn. But to me, they're getting the discussion wrong. Everyone's talking about, is Jimmy Ward right about Matthew Stafford? What I want to say is Jimmy Ward actually only said one thing about Matthew Stafford, that he's a top 10 quarterback in the league, maybe top 5. Everything else he said was question, posed in the form of a question. Was it really smart for them to move on from Jared Goff? Wasn't Jared Goff the guy who got him to the Super Bowl? How come Matthew Stafford hasn't been in the playoffs much? I just have questions. He's very smart. That's how he structured his statement. So when people say, was Jimmy Ward right about Matthew Stafford? Well, he didn't actually say anything about Matthew Stafford other than good player, have questions. The other thing that I want to say is that the most important thing that he said is not about Stafford. It's about Goff. Because what he said about Goff is, look, say what you want. He won a lot of games. Say what you want. He went to the playoffs with them a lot of times. And to me, that takes you inside the psyche of this locker room, because the same exact words apply for Jimmy Garoppolo. And I guarantee that's not lost on Jimmy Ward. You see where I'm going with this?
Yes, absolutely. And I think we can roll this one back up further to the coaching staff. Yes. As far as Shanahan and McVay, I do believe there are a lot of similarities to the aggressive style of play, the leadership qualities, the management skills. So looking at this through the lens of McVay and Shanahan, looking at this as if we're talking about Goff and Garoppolo. Yes. That's the parallel. Also, shout out to Jimmy Ward on that. That was the Socratic method he was using of putting forth his ideas Brilliant. In the form of questions. So you answer it. Very good.
It was very subtle. But it just seems to me like we've spent so much time, me and you, everyone on my channel, all Niner fans, dissecting, over-analyzing, and look, hey, Jimmy doesn't throw outside the numbers, and he doesn't throw deep, and he can't really move, and there's this limitation, and Trey Lance theoretically can do this and that and this and that and this and that. And I could just see Jimmy and a guy like Jaquaski Tartt, anyone who's been through the bad times here, anyone who knows what it's like to put in the effort and lose all the time, and how bad that feeling is, and to see Jimmy Garoppolo walk in the door and all of a sudden change it, all of a sudden be like, you know what? Say what you want about Jimmy Garoppolo. He wins. So until I see that some other quarterback can have the same effect on this team, I'm riding with Jimmy. I feel like, look, if I should have just asked Jimmy Ward because he would have said it. But it just seemed like in retrospect, all the things he was saying about Jared Goff, like, hey, you can't knock this. You can't knock that. That all applies to Jimmy Garoppolo. And if the Niners are going to make this switch to Trey Lance, it just adds on another layer of pressure, because like Trevor Lawrence doesn't have to win this year. Zach Wilson doesn't have to win. Trey Lance has to win as a rookie. Don't just play well, win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if we had not gone through such dark times, you know, those horrible seasons like with Chip Kelly and the like, it would be easier emotionally and strategically to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. But he basically delivered us from the dark times. We were in the dark ages of the franchise. It was really kind of one of the worst spells ever. And to basically say, what's the linchpin? What's the cog that changed? It seems like Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, it's not. There were defensive players, free agents, a new scheme offensively. Players had to adjust to that offensive line and defensively, that sort of thing. So it's more people than just Garoppolo that saved the franchise. But it's really easy to point to him because they did rally behind him. That's true.
Absolutely. He was the one variable that really had a drastic effect.
Yeah, he was the X factor. There's no doubt about that. But yes, there comes a point at which we improved. Now we have to improve again. So moving this back to the Goff, let's look at the parallels. Goff and Garoppolo, they have very similar coaches, offensive brain cases, young coaches, inheriting teams from coaching staffs that did not do such a good job, bringing in the free agents, making trades and things like that. And both of them kind of game manager style. I mean, neither one of them really lights up my brain when it comes to like just raw athletic talents and everything, but they do seem like they can make some throws, and I do think they function well and healthy in this from him. So we're moving on from Garoppolo. Is this not the same as the Rams moving on from Goff? And that's the boat I think that Ward is putting us in. And essentially, Them bringing in Stafford over the top of Goff, he has questions. I think we all do. I think maybe some of those questions will be answered with good or bad performances by Stafford. We'll see. We'll see how well he does. We'll see how well the Niners defense does against him. But bottom line is I think there is a parallel to the way that Goff was jettisoned. And is this the writing on the wall for Garoppolo?
Yeah, absolutely. Domain Threat says, hey, what's up, Domain? He says, I get the remaining loyalties. Jimmy makes sense at this point. I give it 1 week of camp, and Trey will win them over, as it should be. Fair. I just think it's important. This is my takeaway from Jimmy Ward's statement about Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff. Focus on what he said about Goff, because that, I think, gives you a window into – it reminds you just how well liked Jimmy Garoppolo is in this locker room and in this fan base. The fans love Jimmy G. I think the players basically really like Jimmy G because he's a likable person, and they started winning when he got here. I mean, you could get really specific into the football details, but bottom line, Kyle was 1-10. You know, Chip Kelly was 2-14. It was bad. And then Jimmy Garoppolo came here, and all of a sudden, everyone felt great about football again. So it's not to say that he won't get replaced. He's going to get replaced eventually, but got to be it's a very delicate situation.
Charismatic Jimmy G with the ladies, with the fan base, with everything. So it's really easy to like him. Domain, you know, he makes a good point though.
Guys love his face as much as girls do.
Right? Like Shannon Sharp actually brought this up. I know everyone knows I love him, so I just have to quote him on this. He said, if you want to get over your ex, you got to move on to the next one. And that's kind of like Domain is saying here, is that the threat that Domain brings up to Garoppolo is basically the romance, the rose-colored lenses. They come off as soon as we see that, hey, it's okay. If we dip our toes in the water with Lance, it's going to be okay. So, yeah, I think he's kind of right with that. I think if Trey Lance comes in and does pretty well, maybe even better, Garoppolo will be just, that guy that kind of saw us through the dark times.
Yeah. Hey,
and suddenly he's no
a friend
longer
of
the
mine.
franchise face.
He's a brother of mine, but we're athletes, and we got to go with the best player. Sorry.
Nice.
Trey Niner says that QB's Jimmy and Goff situations could be more of a reflection of the head coaches and the quarterbacks. We will see with the Rams this year. One thing real quick, to me, like Goff and Jimmy are good. They're fine. It's just that they don't make other players better, and they need a good offensive line. So once you start paying them a ton of money, you're in trouble. But if you're not paying them much money, you can win. That's been demonstrated. And I think maybe don't sleep on Detroit. Jared Goff is good. He's cheap for them. They have an excellent offensive line. Don't sleep on Detroit. That's all I'm saying.
I'll sleep on the first game.
Yeah. Yes.
I like what Ray says here. Definitely. I'm not going to add much to that other than, I think it could be a reflection of the head coaches. Absolutely. And if you could get these guys on your books for 15 to 20 million a year, you could build a defensive-minded, run-heavy team that could go to the Super Bowl, at least be perennial playoff contenders, because cap space is important to making a playoff run. And if you could get these guys above par quarterbacks to drop their price tag, you could make a good team.
Right. So remember,
I think the Niners could win with Garoppolo if they could restructure him for 15 to 20 million a year, because then you would have been able to keep people like Buckner.
Right. And they're unwilling to do so for, they have their reasons. They have their reasons, but they're unwilling to do so. It just, all of this ratchets up the pressure on Trey Lance, and the pressure really on, not on Trey Lance, on Kyle Shanahan. This is the biggest decision of his career.
Tell me what you think. But it seems like, and I like this, but it seems like the 49ers have established, if you come to us as a free agent and you get hurt, we'll pay you. Yes. We stand behind our athletes. We have good guarantees, even though we have great by Parag Marath, I think is his name. Really good at structuring contracts. But the Niners have been very loyal to their players. I'm not sure if that's playing into what they're doing with Jimmy or if it's a downright fear of making the jump to Trey Lance. And when you're in Lynch and Shanahan's shoes, you're deciding the future of the franchise. It's so easy for us to sit here and talk about it. We may even have it right. But to be the ones responsible, if it doesn't go right, game over. Career done.
Yeah.
Franchise sunk. I mean, these are huge things.
Domain's back. He says, excellent analogy from Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr in basketball. Kerr had to win them over with results. Yeah, Kerr had to win right away, and he did. Because, I mean, it's like, say what you want about Mark Jackson. His offense is terrible. He's capping this team. Okay, well, the next guy, he was winning 50 games a year, and this was the Warriors. They never won. So the replacement had to be better right away, and Steve Kerr was. Same thing goes for Trey Lance. You got to be better right away. Because if you're not, then
he can't come in and just be a Band-Aid. He has to come in, and he also has to win in ways where he's using the abilities we keep talking about. He needs to light up the run game, He needs to bring excitement and diversity to the offense. Definitely, he needs to crush.